This is a Fiddle Leaf Fig that I rescued from the clearance bin at Home Depot. So I figured I'd share my tips and tricks for keeping a happy, healthy Fiddle Leaf Fig. Fiddle leaf figs are a tree slash houseplant that have been very popular in the last decade or so. Really well known for their very, I would almost say, architectural leaves. They are part of the ficus family, which includes rubber trees, ficus trees, figs, which is a pretty broad term. I believe they are native to the jungles of South America, so that will tell you a little bit about the plant care in that they like it warm and bright. However, they are known as a little bit of a diva plant. They are not always necessarily the easiest plants to take care of, so I figured I'd take you through the whole history of this Fiddle Leaf Fig in particular, which I rescued from a clearance bin at Home Depot a couple of years ago, actually. I have another video where I featured this Fiddle Leaf Fig where I chopped it. You can see the results of that, and I will post a link where you can find that video, which also goes through the care. But with this video, I figured I'd go through repotting a Fiddle Leaf Fig, how to identify any problems that you may have with a tree such as this, and then the care and maintenance of keeping them happy and healthy after you've rescued them. So as mentioned, this is a Fiddle Leaf Fig that I found in the clearance bin at Home Depot. It was half price at $12, and it had a little more than 3 leaves on it, and it looked bad. I knew that by giving it a little tender loving care, I could bring it back to nice health and beauty. First thing I did was remove it from its pot, which was a fine size for the tree size that it was. It wasn't root bound, but the soil was mediocre at best. I also wanted to check the root health, as a lot of the plants that are bought at big box stores tend to have root rot, really bad soil, or similar issues from under or over watering. So I carefully worked the soil from the roots, as these diva trees don't really like their roots to be messed with. That can often lead to stress and the leaf loss that these trees can be known for. But I felt it was more important to check the roots and make way for new healthy growth. I should note, if you have a tree that seems in okay health, you probably don't need to mess with the roots. This is really only for trees that need a little bit more of a rescue operation. So once I cleaned the soil from the roots, I sprayed them down with hydrogen peroxide, and this helps clear away any rot that the roots may be suffering. You can kind of see the fizzing action taking place. So once the fizzing stopped or died down a little bit, I did spray the roots again with water to make sure the hydrogen peroxide didn't stay on and burn the roots after it finished its work. I then put together a healthy, well-draining soil mix that included a good potting soil, something that was organic with natural fertilizers built in, such as earthworm castings, kelp, bat guano. Any good organic mix will do. I also added perlite, which is a type of puffed up lava rock, and that is really common in gardening and a fantastic way to add aeration and draining. In this case, I also added leca just because I had it, which is kind of like a little clay ball, and that just helped keep the mix chunky. A good orchid bark would also work well in this case. So using the original nursery pot that the tree came in, I added my mix to about 1/3 full. Then I gently placed the tree with its bare roots and added the rest of my soil mix in, making sure there were no air pockets. So tapping or gently banging the pot is a good method for removing air pockets. My daughter helped me out, and we gave the tree a nice watering and then placed it in a spot with bright indirect light. In my case, I put it on my patio, which is pretty bright. It has kind of filtered sunlight. It's almost like a greenhouse effect, which also keeps it nice and warm, which is the conditions that these trees want. They are native to South American rainforests, so they do need it to be warm and bright. After a week or so, the tree did start sprouting some new healthy leaves, so I knew it was on its way to recovery. So it has now been about 2 years since that tree was repotted. It exploded in growth. It had a period of having really beautiful, dark, shiny green leaves. However, recently I did notice there are a few common issues now affecting this plant, which are generally really easy to spot from the leaves. So these big leaves do a good job of telling you what is wrong with them. So I'm going to help you identify some of these problems so that if you spot them on your own plant, you know how to fix it. So if you have a really close-up look at this plant, this is a really nice, healthy leaf. This is what you want your Fiddle Leaf Fig mostly to look like, this kind of nice, shiny, rich, dark green. This leaf is a little bit too yellow. This is starting to turn yellow. This is a sign this plant is not getting the nutrition that it needs. That's usually a sign of nitrogen deficiency, which just means it needs to be fertilized. When the leaves are crispy and brown on the outside, that means your leaves are not getting enough water. If the leaves start getting brown holes on the inside, that's a sign that it's got too much water. You need to let it dry out. The other bad warning sign here are these red dots. We've had a lot of rain here lately, and I have a feeling that constant moisture on these leaves have made it susceptible to some kind of a fungal infection, which doesn't look good. You can see the leaves are starting to curl up, and it's not going to be really good for growth. So looking down here, these leaves look like they got a little bit of sun damage. This is a sign of sunburn. So when you see that on your leaves, you might want to take it out of the hot, direct sunlight. These leaves are also very photosensitive, so if they get dust on their leaves, it's very hard for them to photosynthesize. You need to give them a regular dusting. I've seen leaf shine that you could purchase. You don't really need it. They have this sort of natural sheen. When you rub them, that sheen comes out. So I usually take a nice cloth like this and hold the leaf firmly on the bottom and give it a nice good rub. So the thing is with these leaves, if they do get damaged, they don't repair themselves. So you do want to be a little bit careful with the leaves. So now that I've rubbed these leaves down, I am going to just use this copper fungicide to help treat the problems that I think this plant is suffering from. That's first steps. So as I mentioned, these leaves, once they get damaged, you can't reverse that damage. So these red spots won't go away. Any of these holes, that kind of stuff, won't go away. However, hopefully it means that any new growth won't be affected by this fungal infection, which is what I believe it is. And I think that that could also be what's affecting these yellow leaves, because they look fairly affected down underneath. And I really do believe that's from all the moisture that we've had, all the bad weather. So now that we've treated the leaves, I'm gonna take it out of this pot. And I don't think these trees really need to be repotted that often compared to a lot of other plants. This pot size is actually fine for this plant. I don't think that's an issue. I'm just literally upgrading it. And when you do pot up, you wanna make sure you're not doing a pot that's too much bigger. That sort of can tend to put your plant into a state of shock. So this pot's a little bit bigger. Like I said, I don't think the plant needs it, but I think it will be happy enough. This pot has built-in drainage, which is really good. This also does allow for bottom watering, which is a great way to water your fiddle leaf figs to sort of ensure that you're not overwatering. That's another great method. So, well, that actually lifted out fairly easily. I am gonna just loosen the roots a little bit. I'm not gonna go too crazy. And you can see actually when I repotted it before, I used a lot of leca. I'm just gonna leave that in. I'm only going to tease out the bottom roots just a little bit, just to kind of almost let it know that there's more space. This is my mix of organic soil, perlite, and premium orchid bark. A little bit more soil here. I'm just gonna fill in this side. I'm making sure there's no air pockets, that it's in there pretty solidly. I'm just gonna pop that in there and give it a nice brush around. I'm happy with that. And here it is now in its new pot. This is the patio that it lives under. It gets nice and bright. And I'm just gonna water it now. This is actually got some diluted fertilizer that is formulated especially for green leaf growth, which is what this needs. Hopefully help it get the nutrition that it needs. And that is it. As for my other Fiddle Leaf Fig, which I featured in another video and chopped the top off of, this is a little bit of an update with that. You can see it has grown a ton of new branches, which is exactly what I had hoped it would do. It ended up actually growing a lot more than I had originally intended. So we'll see. Some of these I might even chop and repropagate into other smaller trees. But for now, I'm really happy with the result of this tree. And this tree doesn't seem to have been as affected by the inclement weather as the other Fiddle Leaf Fig had been. There's no sign of fungus issues with this one. It just got a little bit beat up being on the patio during the winter. I did end up bringing it indoors during the really bad rainy weather, so I think that did help it stay healthier than the other Fiddle Leaf Fig. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you for growing a happy, healthy Fiddle Leaf Fig tree. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'm always happy to answer any questions you may have. And of course, don't forget to check me out on TikTok and Instagram, and of course, subscribe.